Hi, this is Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to episode 27 of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, all about my Amiga 1200 refurbishment. Now, I've owned my 1200 for probably at least 15 years, maybe a little longer. It sounds strange, but I don't remember when I got it. I ordered it from Amigakit in the early 2000s, back when they still had some new old stock of the SCOM line of the Amiga 1200 computers. Got it in, used it, upgraded it with a nice Blizzard A1200 card and 64 megs of RAM. Then when I decided I wanted to put Amiga OS 3.9 on it back in the day, I needed a CD-ROM in order to install that, so I got a little 4X IDE adapter, also from Amigakit back in the day, 15, 17 years ago, but it was too tall to fit in the case. You'd put it in and the keyboard would hit it and it would never close properly. So I ordered a PS2 adapter to use a PS2 style keyboard on my Amiga 1200, and it just got so kludgy that I just ended up keeping it in the closet and not using it. It just wasn't nice and neat and tidy like it used to be. So when I got back into the Amiga scene, I very infrequently used my Amiga 1200. I hooked it up, I'd play with it a little, but didn't do much with it. It was slow, the hard drive was slow, which I'll go over in the video. But then I started thinking that I'd really like to get back into using that because of the nice, neat, tidy form factor. It's such a pretty little computer, nice and compact, AGA, great. So I ordered some components from RetroReady.1, and I'll put them right down in here, that would help me get everything neat and tidy once again. I also decided that I was going to try and get my original A1200 keyboard working. We'll go over that in the video here in a few moments. And lastly, I thought I would upgrade it to Amiga OS 3.1.4. I like Amiga OS 3.9 just fine, but to be honest, it's a little bit slow. Now that I've been using it on my Amiga 4000, I've noticed that the 3.9 feels a little chuggy at times. It's just not zippity-doo-dah fast. And it's also a dead-end operating system, where at least Amiga OS 3.1.4 possibly has some kind of future, some kind of upgradability. So I ordered Amiga OS 3.1.4 from Jeff and Aaron at Amiga on the Lake. I'll put their link right down here. They're a local United States Amiga company, one of the few remaining, possibly the last one remaining. Ordered the new version from there, got it in, put in the ROMs, installed the operating system, and it just works like a dream, which I will go over a little bit towards the end of this video. So I hope you enjoy. So here's the current setup of my little Amiga 1200. I don't keep it in my studio. I keep it out in my main room. I do have a separate PS2 keyboard hooked up to it because my left and right Amiga keys don't work on here, but I will probably fix that or just get a membrane. But here's what I'm talking about. Over here on the right hand or left hand side, my Orinoco wireless card sticks out so far, and then I've got my CF card all the way buried under here. Let me lift it up and show you. There she is, the CF card. And that is rather precarious. Now, the card that I have doesn't really fit inside the case very nicely at all, especially since I have my MK2 inside of there. Just not a very good fit. So I put it outside of the case so it didn't cramp things up and get too hot inside there. So I think with these new goodies from RetroReady.1, I think it's going to really improve it. So let's get busy. Now, just for the sake of completeness, I want to test the drive speed of the CF card with the old controller against the new. I don't think it's going to make a bit of difference, but I'm just curious. So first, I'm going to do a speed test on here. I've got a Blizzard A1200 with 64 megs of RAM. So yeah, you can see it's a nice speedy little system. And we're going to go to drives. And yes, I know this is not the most accurate testing utility that exists, but we're going to use it anyways. 728 kilobits per second. Horrible speed. On my ACA 500 Plus, I can get 3 to 4 to 5 megabytes per second. On my Amiga 4000 with its nice fast SCSI, I can get 9 megabytes to 10 megabytes per second. But I don't expect that much from this little guy. So here's the inside of my little Amiga 1200. I've got the Indivision MK2 board here. I am stealing some power from this power jack down here to power the floppy drive and to power the CF card. I also have some extra power here where I used to have a CD-ROM attached, but I haven't had a need for that in a long time. But you can see where this particular CF card just doesn't comfortably fit inside the case. I do have another one that does fit inside the case, but it has to plug into a 4X IDE, and the 4X EIDE adapter I have does not fit in the case nicely. So the whole thing just is not good. So let me get this swapped out and we'll see what happens. We'll unplug this little guy. Unplug this little guy. Now, of course, I'll keep this. This is one that I did use on my Amiga 4000 for a while. It's a nice one. I got it off of Amazon, and works fine. I don't have any issues with it. Never could properly get the second IDE channel to work fine on the Amiga 4000. It just never was happy with any master-slave arrangement at all. But I find that a lot. This we're going to keep internal now. And we've got our new little device. This is the CF2 IDE Plus from RG Chila in Poland. And this one's nice. It does have a second IDE port there, so I can use it for my CD-ROM if I want to. Looks like she'll just fit right in there and do everything I need it to do. Let's get her seated and see what happens. That could not be easier. Look how nicely that fits in, and very, very professional too. I mean, it just literally just sits right in there, just absolutely perfectly. I tend to use these 16 gig SanDisk cards. This one's rated at 50 megabytes per second, and I've used these on my Amiga 500, and I use them on my Amiga 1200. They seem to be recognized just fine. They work okay. So let's slot this little guy into place. Perfect. Now, interestingly enough, it does not seem to require any separate power supply, where my other two that I have did require separate power. This one seems to get all of its power internally. So I could actually live without a lot of this garbage here, couldn't I? Let's see what I can live without. Since I'm not adding anything else to this, I can take this off. Saves me that whole piece. And I can take this off. Saves me that whole piece. And all I will need is power for the floppy. So I had to grab this one out of my Amiga 4000. It just has one of the small connectors on one end, one on the other, and then I still have a Molex connector here. If I want to connect things in the future, I can just add on one of my other cables if I need some power in the future. But this will keep the clutter down inside the Amiga 1200. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want to see how well I can use my Amiga 1200 without my PS2 keyboard. Now the next little device is this, and this is the Rastport, made by Rastport apparently in Poland. And what it does is it just changes the angle of your PCMCIA card. Now when I first saw this online, I thought, how silly, who needs that? And then I went and put my Amiga 1200 inside of a desk that the Orinoco wireless card was sticking out so far, it just wasn't convenient. I'm like, you know, okay, now I understand who needs it. I need it. So ordered one of those. I'm going to see how she works too. Oh, that's nice. Just fits right in there. Doesn't wobble too much. Then I can put the Orinoco card right out the back and keep that nice and clean. And it's also going to be easily removable if I need to put something else in there. And should give me reasonable accessibility in the back of the case too. So if you can see that there, slots in nicely along the back. So we've got her all put back together. Now the wireless card does kind of stick out the back a little bit and maybe doesn't rest on the table as much as I'd like. Maybe I'll get something to prop that up a little bit, but it certainly does seem to fit in there okay. You just have to weigh if losing 2 inches on the back is worth saving 3 or 4 inches on the side. I think it is, because you're going to have your power cable and your joysticks and monitor and everything plugged into the back of this. So I think overall it's still going to be a tremendous space savings. Now I'm going to hook this thing back up and see how it performs. So the first attempt at booting got me up to the kickstart screen. So apparently something's not connected correctly inside, so I'll pop the top and see what I missed. Well, that was an easy little fix. Just had to slot down the CF adapter inside the Amiga 1200 a little bit. I just had to push it down a little, just wasn't quite hitting all the pins. Super easy. Boots up fine. I tested the speeds, and the speeds are exactly the same as they were with the other CF card. So there's no difference in performance with this, but I didn't expect there to be. So poor eyebrows couldn't connect to RetroReady.1. So over on my nice quad-core PC, go visit them. It's RetroReady.1. I will, of course, put the link in the description and put it right down here, as I always do. Take a look at some of the cool things they have. Right now, it's mostly just adapters and a couple accelerators, but I think they're going to be adding to their stock sooner or later. For years, I've been using this keyboard adapter on my Amiga 1200. I think I've shown it off before. It just allows you to use an AT style keyboard. I had a PS2 adapter on there. And I did that because the old IDE adapter that I used to have in here was way too big. It was so tall, it would never allow my keyboard to rest in there. So I just left the case open, used an external keyboard. Well, I've replaced that with this component from RetroReady, and works great, and it's nice and low profile. So I wanted to put my old keyboard back in. Now, a couple months ago, I had bought a few of these replacement keyboard holders from a guy on Facebook. He 3D printed them. Worked out great. I'll try and find his name and put him in the description. And so I was using my old keyboard, my PS2 keyboard, and I noticed that some letters were coming out incorrectly on it. I would type an L and it would show up as a K. I would type a 1 and it would show up as the sign there. So I was thinking, well, maybe I've got a problem with my keyboard connection. So I plugged my keyboard back in, and I noticed a lot of the keys didn't work. Amiga control didn't work. This enter key didn't work. The minus sign didn't work. Several keys just didn't function. But then if I'd put some pressure here and squeezed the keyboard connector right there with the keyboard plugged in, some of the keys would start working. So I knew that we had a bum connection here then, and that was causing a problem with both my PS2 and my Amiga keyboard. So I took a little tool and I bent out a few of these pins just so they'd make better contact, And that solved about 3/4 of my problems. The only issue was the enter key wouldn't work. So then what I decided to do is on the ribbon cable here, I put on some of the graphite paint that I'd used to fix my SX64. And my theory is that's going to build up the ribbon connector just enough where it will make better contact with the adapter here. To finalize everything with the Amiga 1200, on the keyboard connector, in addition to putting on the graphite, which helped dramatically, I also put a piece of tape on the back to push it a little further, and there's a piece of plastic down in there. I just tucked it in there nicely so it puts nice even pressure on the little white connector, and it's been working absolutely beautifully. So I'm thrilled to death that I have my Amiga 1200 keyboard back. And I also decided I was going to upgrade this to Amiga OS 3.1.4. So I bought the ROMs and the discs from Jeff and Aaron at Amiga on the Lake here in the United States. Got my discs in a week or so ago, put the ROMs in, and installed it. Now I've done a couple of videos on the installation, so I'm not going to go over that again. But it works perfect. And here's the other thing that's really cool about what it did when I reinstalled the operating system. So you'll remember a few minutes ago I was talking about the speed of the drives and how slow they were. Now, when I reinstalled the operating system, I'm getting 1.6 megabytes per second, which is where it really should be. Not quite as fast as the A4000, but pretty darn close, all things considered. So what I'm assuming is there was a problem probably with one of the Boeing bags that I'd installed in the past. I put on the unofficial 3.9 Boeing bag version 3 and version 4, and it must have done something to SCSI device and buggered it up. But now when I've done a complete reinstallation, she's just as fast as all get out. So I am truly, truly pleased. So there's the final view of our finished Amiga 1200. Gone are the ugly connectors that were sticking out the back and the PCM CIA card sticking out the back, replaced with this nice slot here to neaten things up. Inside we've got a nice CF card that is not requiring any power at all except what it gets from the controller. So that's absolutely beautiful. MK2 is working beautifully in there. Amiga 1200 keyboard is back up and running, all keys functioning perfect. Got a nice little wizard mouse here, and the computer actually will slide back and fit nicely under the desk when it's not in use. And look at that lovely picture that it created. This is one of my flowers from the front of my house. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video of me refurbishing my nice little Amiga 1200. I had a lot of fun doing it. It's really a great little machine, and I find myself using it so much more now that it's back in its case and it's nice and neat and tidy and I don't have cables everywhere. It's just fantastic. So I'm pretty content with the performance of my Amiga 1200. I can't imagine I'm going to need too much more for that. I'm happy with it. I'm quite happy with its performance. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. It helps me out a lot. And until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast signing out.